Welcome to Privacy Download. My name is Roberta Medina, and I am an attorney at Veirano Advogados in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Today, I'm going to be briefly talking to you about the Brazilian General Data Protection Law, also known as the LGPD, and that entered into force on September 18, 2020. The LGPD follows the worldwide trend of strengthening personal data protection, mainly by replicating key points of the GDPR, guaranteeing a series of rights to data subjects, as well as imposing important obligation on processing agents. The purpose of the regulation is to boost economic and technological development in Brazil, and to promote transparency to operations involving the personal data protection. The LGPD defines personal data as information related to an identified or identifiable natural person. It also defines what we call sensitive data, which includes health, biometric, genetic data, among others. With regard to the scope of application, the LGPD applies when personal data is collected from individuals located in Brazil, when the processing activity is performed in Brazil, and when the offering of goods and services is focused on individuals located in Brazil. As for the data subjects' rights under the LGPD, they are quite similar to the ones in the GDPR, including confirmation and information related to the processing of their personal data, easy access to the data, anonymization, among others. Basically, the LGPD establishes that the data subjects are entitled to a series of rights that must be guaranteed by the processing agents. In addition, the processing agents are responsible for keeping the data subjects informed of their rights in a clear, objective, and accessible manner. So we recommend that companies seek to revise their documents and contracts and carry out updating processes to guarantee permanent compliance with the law. It is also important to mention our national authority, also known as the ANPD. Among the main activities inherent to the ANPD are the development of guidelines and specific rules for data protection, the coordination of these activities with sector-specific regulators, and the spreading of knowledge about rules, public policies, and security measures in society. It is also very important to highlight that the ANPD has exclusive competence to apply sanctions under the LGPD, but I'll talk more about it in a minute. There are several impacts as a consequence of the LGPD's entry into force, but for this presentation, I shall present 5. The first one is the fact that companies need to be compliant with the LGPD, or they can suffer administrative sanctions. The second one is the need to develop retention practices. The third one is the need to ensure data subjects' rights. The fourth one is the changing on direct marketing practices. And the fifth one is the fact that companies most likely will have to adopt new technical and legal measures to protect personal data. So when it comes to administrative sanctions, the LGPD brought penalties for non-compliance and data breaches. This is not something new in the international scenario, but in Brazil, it is quite recent, and we will demand companies to adequate themselves to the new rules. It is worth mentioning that these administrative sanctions, such as the suspension of the processing activities, fines, or elimination of personal data, shall be enforceable by the ANPD starting from August 2021. But that does not mean that companies can leave adequacy for tomorrow. And I will explain why. The reason is that other bodies, including prosecution office or the consumer protection authorities, such as Senacom or Procoms, are overseeing compliance to the LGPD and issuing notices to companies that did not comply with the law. So even though the sanctions foreseen in the LGPD are not yet enforceable, companies may still be subject to criminal and civil liabilities. For example, Banco Inter, a Brazilian bank, was held liable in 2018 for a leak of almost 20,000 clients' data, and as a consequence, had to pay 1.5 million reais to charity institutions. To ensure compliance with the LGPD, companies will need to adopt new measures, as well as update their internal policies and protocols with regards to the processing of personal data. So our recommendations are, first of all, contact a legal counsel. We can always help you and your company with privacy matters. Second, create awareness in your company regarding the importance of the LGPD, not only due to the sanctions, but mainly because of the rights the law guarantees to you as a data subject. Remember that being compliant is a relevant asset for your company's image. And get involved. They say data is the new oil, so engage in data protection conferences and get to know more about it. Beyond that, bear in mind that we are creating a new privacy culture in Brazil. Brazilians are now starting to be aware of their privacy rights, and companies should be part of the process. So try to create solutions that do not involve the processing of personal data. But if processing is necessary, then reduce the amount of data to the minimum possible. Consider the nature, purposes, and context of the processing when creating products and providing services. Inform data subjects about the processing of their personal data as clearly as possible, and take all measures, technical or not, to ensure that the processing is secure. I'm so glad for the opportunity to be presenting LGPD, and I hope it was useful. Don't forget to join IAA and Mediaspace and watch future privacy downloads. Thanks for watching.